Today, I'm going to discuss a way for you to begin to be living your dreams, achieving your goals in a much faster way, and honestly, a much happier and healthier way by simply tuning into your higher vision. I have found that this is a much faster path, and it's actually a path of what I would consider a feeling of real wholeness instead of the sense of separation where you're here and your goals are way over there, and you've got to work hard, and time has to occur for for you to finally get here. There we've often been taught that this is what we learn from a very young age, and it can serve a purpose to a degree by having us develop certain skills, patience, different ways to work with people, and all this stuff that kind of goes along when we use a linear path. So that can serve us, though, also when we are choosing to work in a way of higher awareness. And so the higher visions I'm talking about is something that is going to evolve throughout our life. It's not like we just have one vision and that's it most of the time. Certainly, if you have any sense of ambition, if you're an adventurous person, if you're a creative person, you're going to, that's going to change and grow with you. And that kind of evolution is really enlivening to people. And so it adds an extra vibrancy to whatever we're doing, that when we just, as I said, kind of work towards the goals, it can feel very much like we're climbing this, mountain all the time. And whereas with a higher vision, it's like you're already operating from this higher space, and from it, decisions come, from it, ideas come, from it is the energy that you need to take the actions that will get you closer to it. And so one of those pieces around higher vision is the idea of your true self. And what is it that your true self already knows, and that it envisions, and that it desires? What actually wakes it up? And I'm going to be sharing with you today some examples from both my life as well as people I've actually worked with who have followed this approach and found that what they wanted actually was realized way faster than when they had been working without this idea altogether. So also in this video, what I'd like to do is offer you a handful of questions that you can use to begin getting clear on it. Now, you may very well already, be in a certain part of your life where your business at a certain level that you like, or you have a certain kind of lifestyle. But most likely, if you're watching this video, you're probably bumping up against kind of like old ceilings to what maybe doesn't feel like enough anymore. It just not no longer a match. Maybe you've grown so much that it's time for a new stage or a new phase of your life and business. And so these questions can serve to begin kind of opening up the mind to having that, to thinking about these things, and actually expanding what is actually going to be possible for you. And I've used this with people who are literally like new entrepreneurs to people who have been in business for many years. I've used it with people who are completely making a dramatic change in their world through their lifestyle or the career path they're following. So it's something that can be used at any stage, and it's not only relevant to certain people. But what I will say, it's going to be relevant when you actually even understand that word, like higher vision, that it speaks to you. And you may not know exactly what it means, but there's something about it that has you go, yeah, you know what? My life and my world feels like it fits within this higher vision. There's something more that I am creating versus just having, the ordinary wonderful things that we all want in life, right? But there's another kind of energy to it. So let's get into the questions. So you might want to grab a pen and paper and write them down now, or what you can do is, rewind the video after you listen to it the first time, and then sit down when you have more time to actually answer some of the questions. But if you get like quick answers right now, do take note of them, because they will be useful for you, like that first instinct that comes out, right? So the first question is, what is the life you envision? What is the life you envision for yourself? in like the happiest way. Like if you were just happy and everything was working in your favor, what would be happening? Where would you be living? Who would you be with? Um, what kind of lifestyle would you have? What would be your health? Would you be traveling? Would you have hobbies and interests? Would you be fully into your work? Is that going to be your full passion? So, have an idea. What is the life you envision? What is the energy around it? And then what level of business or career path do you imagine, right? For me, like one starting point is often the work style, I'll call it kind of lifestyle, work style. Do I see myself in a company, working alone, working on my computer, working with people, working with products, working with services, having a team, a small team or a large team, an international team, right? Like at different times in my career, I've probably been like had all of those things. And so again, allowing that kind of evolution. Say you've been a solopreneur for many years, and now all of a sudden you're just craving like working more with people, and you're like, you know what? Now is the time either to work as a part of a group or create my own team, or maybe move more into a company rather than just being an individual entrepreneur. So all of this can change, right? At any point. The point is, how alive does it make you feel, and how resonant is it with you? Along with that, let's also look at revenue. Of course, we all think about money when we think about goals, right? What is the income level you like, or the kind of investment level, right? Like money includes cash flow and income as much as it does investments and wealth producing assets, for example. Wealth is also, the place we live, the people we're around, our education, our well-being. Wealth includes many things that allow prosperity to actually increase. So what is an amount that actually feels incredibly just right for you? And here it's really important to take off judgments about what that amount might mean, whether it's not enough, too low or too high or anything like that. Just take that out and say, like, yeah, if what would have me feel a richness in my life? Knowing that, of course, it can keep expanding and growing and flowing, right? But what is the kind of revenue that allows me to live my higher vision, right? I don't know about you, but my higher vision will require more. It just naturally does. Um, and there may be a place where I'm like, no, I'm a certain level is actually really perfect for me, um, and I'm content with that. But often with a higher vision, there's something that is shifting, that is changing, that often will require more. So, be honest with yourself. And right now, we're not worrying about the how. We're not going to worry about all the steps that we have to take, but just like, what is real, what is true. Because I can promise you that things can happen in very unexpected ways when we commit to what is actually real for us. Then, along that, I guess I can even share. Like I've worked with clients who came to me and they had, they had a business, they were offering a service, and they had some kind of hourly rate. And just looking at what they were offering, what they were creating, and their future higher vision, that hourly rate just did not fit. And so, I supported them in creating certain packages that also brought the work to a higher level. So they were attracting the kind of clients that they wanted. um, and those packages, like, in one case was a couple of $1,000. In another case, it was like a minimum of $20,000 projects that we were looking at from which, they could grow. So, knowing that we're creating something that's going to suit us and our needs and our visions versus, oh, this is what I expect the market can handle, this is what I think clients can pay, this is what I think, the marketplace is offering currently. Like, get that out of your system right now and just begin getting into much more like, what does my true self really say? Because, in future videos I can talk more about that, but it's kind of like the seeds that you plant now or that are already planted inside of you are going to tell you more of the truth than the kind of things that you hear out there in the world about what is possible and what is not. then what kind of things do you dream about? So this is also quite essential here, because we're talking about a higher vision, right? Not a regular vision, a higher vision. That means all of us, like our multidimensional selves. It's not just a personality, we've grown into, that we've been conditioned into, the thoughts that other people project onto us in our life, like, oh, this is who you should be, this is what you should be doing. But actually, looking at ourselves, and what do I dream about naturally when no one's around, when I am very free in a relaxed state, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, imagine if I lived that. And sometimes, watching others, whether it's on television or in magazines or something, on podcasts, can kind of help us expand our vision of what we think is possible. Like, if they can, why can't I, right? All I have to do is actually just choose. And so allow that dreaming to happen. I had one client who was like, you know what, I live in the northern hemisphere, and so the winters are cold and gray, and I can't stand it. I'm living like this. And yet he wasn't actually taking the actions to change the scenario. So when we worked together and that came up, like, we really looked at it, and he then took the steps to make that happen. And next thing you know, like, I got a letter saying he was spending 4 months in the tropics over the winter season, or the winter season according to where he used to live. So he had the sunshine, all year now. And so that was an example of something that he was thinking about imagining, but yet he was restricting himself from actually living that out. Another client had wanted, was living in a location that was not isolated, but maybe more isolated than a big city. And so she wanted to be flying regularly to meet with her clients more, right? So, like, expand her base. And that wasn't certainly, wasn't the goal that she came to work with me with. It was to actually launch the business and grow the business. But that idea came out, that desire came out during her sessions. And so then we included it in her higher vision. And I don't remember if it was a year or so, but within a year after, she had many goals, so we worked on those first. But within a year or so, year and a half maybe, she wrote me an email saying that she had gotten an opportunity to fly to work with clients once a month. And so this was just happening really naturally for her now. So along with the dreaming, I want to add this piece of natural. A lot of people wouldn't put those two together, because they often think, like, if I'm thinking of an idea or a dream that's so beyond my current world, my current lifestyle, my current level of wealth, for example, how could it possibly feel natural? I've never had that before. I've never experienced it before. Well, here is where I would like you to have a shift in perception, because you don't have to physically experience something to have experienced it. You can emotionally experience something through your imagination, and you can mentally experience something through your imagination as well. You can imagine it, you can feel it, you can see it in your mind's eye. You can maybe hear the kind of sounds around you that would, for example, if you're living in a certain country where they speak a different language, you can imagine hearing that language, for example. So there's so many ways we can enter into experience that doesn't have to require us to be in it physically at the time. And a lot of this, I tell you, actually happens quite innately and unconsciously for people. It's not something they have to think about. It's almost like that's part of who they are, right? So think of a musician who's always like thinking of sound and of vibration or lyrics in a certain way, and they've done that since they were a kid. So by the time they're out there wanting to be a musician, it's already a part of their experience, right? It's already innate in who they are. It's interwoven. For me, one of those things was travel from a very young age. It just seemed like the most exciting and fun and natural thing in the world for me to do. Now, I didn't have a lot of role models as to, in my family anyway, that were, constantly traveling to different places. So it felt like, oh, a little bit out of my reach, or it's going to require a certain amount of money, and how would I do that, right? But as a child, you don't think about those things. You're just like, oh yeah, that feels like me for some reason. And it's ended up that probably, I think I've probably traveled to the most countries within my extended family, right? And it's just felt incredibly natural for me. Plus, I was very tuned into a higher vision from early on. So that's one of the reasons I can speak to this. Because it was so strong and I trusted it, I ended up creating scenarios, or just in certain circumstances, that allowed me to travel, and that I then really nurtured and sought out intentionally. So I've ended up either living, working, studying in 5 countries so far to date, and absolutely enjoyed all of that experience. So there was no one around me who said, well, you should do that, or that's a normal thing to do, or I didn't, it's not like I had to have millions of dollars in order to do that either, right? So all of this was actually quite possible and available from, fairly early, relatively speaking. So, be real and true with yourself. Those things that are already in there are in there for a reason, and because you're already connected to them. You can say, at the quantum level, you're already connected to them because they're inside you. You can feel it, you can see it, you can taste it, you just know it, and it feels like it's a natural you, even if it feels like what a dream that would be. Um, so allow yourself to expand beyond a norm of the typical, oh, here are the goals. I should have a house. I should have this much money. I should have this kind of job and this kind of partner. Like get out of that into more like, oh, yeah, when I'm dreaming, this is what I imagine, right? This is what I can imagine myself doing. This feels most fun. What will bring you most alive? That's a really good question. What brings you alive naturally, right? And I've, in my own path, I've done many things, done several things. I've been an entrepreneur for a couple of decades now, and that allows me a certain level of freedom to try out new things, to bring in new experiences, to add new skills. And it's a choice, it's just something that I really thrive on, versus just focusing on one way. So I'll be talking about some of that in the videos to come. But one example is, a lot of my work has been in consulting and coaching people, working one-on-one. At one point in my career, I decided, I went off to Paris, France to take a course in fashion and haute couture, and it was super exciting for me. Now, that had been an interest of mine very privately to some degree, for many years prior to that. Like nobody, it's not something I really talked about. I just took interest in it, and I was always like looking at images and pictures and styles and all of that. And when I actually went there, and next thing you know, I'm there during Fall Fashion Week and helping out in some of the shows, it just felt like I felt so relaxed. I can't even explain it. I was even a bit shocked at how easy and natural it felt. It was just like, yeah, I could completely fit in here, or I do already fit in here. I didn't feel like I was out of my ordinary life. It had been a part of me for so long. So, some of the famous faces that I'd been watching in shows, like online at home, were now literally walking right in front of me. And that felt, as I said, strangely normal. So we can go beyond what we think to expect or what others may expect. And so I invite you to go into that play. And remember, you don't have to do anything about it right now. You don't have to figure out the how. I never sat around wondering how am I going to ever travel to all these places. I didn't make it sound like it was impossible. I was just like, oh, I'd like to travel. This is what I do. This is what I'm going to choose. And whenever I could create an opportunity to do so, I did. And I still do. And I will probably continue to do so because, as I said, it feels like a really natural part of who I am and who I enjoy being. So I hope these questions are having you get a little excited, get enthusiastic about what you might find out about your higher vision. And remember, it can keep evolving. It doesn't have to be static by any means. It doesn't mean you're stuck in it, but we're entering a realm of play and imagination where we will be able to access experiences far beyond what our current path might even look like. And so I'm going to offer you 3 steps that you can take after you finish listening to the video. Well, actually, say 4. The first one is rewind it and now sit down with each of the questions and just write out what comes and go with what comes with instinct. And then later, maybe flesh it out with play. Oh my gosh, if I was going to be bolder, what would I say next? What would be 2 levels up, not just the next level, but 2 levels up. Let's go there and see what that comes in. 3, and just start beginning to describe it in ways that do feel alive to you, that feel exciting, passionate, and probably much more real than even maybe your current life feels, right? So do that and then share in the comments, maybe just in a few lines, how would you describe your higher vision? What like whether there's things you see, things you'd be doing, or what you'd feel in it. So share that with us, because sharing always, it gives support to everybody else, right? Plus, it has us say something out into the world instead of just keeping it hidden. And being able to share that in a space like this allows you to provide, receive support from others, and also claim it, claim it for yourself. And then you can get a free book that I've just completed called Cast a New Trajectory. You're able to download it for free right now, and I'll provide the link below in the description box for you to do that. And in it are stories of 12 people who did this, who went into their higher visions, worked with me, and then you can hear about what happened, what are the changes they made, what shifts did they go through, and then what kind of results did they get in often a very short span of time as a result of it. And then finally, if you are interested and you're like, I really like this, but I need help to really maybe clarify the higher vision. I really appreciate having a sounding board, somebody who can maybe draw out some of the key things that I'm saying, and maybe ask questions that are going to help me get it clearer. Because as I said, once your higher vision is clear, guess what? It makes it 10 times easier to start getting to those goals and having, experiencing them and living them out, and often living at least one of them out much faster than you ever imagined. And if you'd like to work with me on that, you can probably, sign up for either my 1 session or my 3-session package if you want to work over a period of time. And as I said, you have a bigger vision maybe that needs some of that work on it with somebody. And I would love to hear from you in that case. And again, I'll provide a link below on how you can do that as of today. So I hope that's been helpful. I'd love to hear what kind of ideas come to you, what this has sparked, this has made you think about. And I will see you next time.